Brian May, your Queen's guitar player. The band is back on the road after nearly 3 years. How does it feel?
It feels very good. It's the only time in our lives that we have taken a break from it, and coming back and playing together in rehearsals was actually exciting, which usually it isn't. Usually you think, oh God, we have to rehearse, you know. But to get the four of us back together and playing was a very good feeling. And we've worked very hard, and I think we're ready for the tour.
Do you feel that Queen, after this unusual break in the career of the band, is kind of regrouping?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing here now. This is the first time we've rehearsed this long, and we've never rehearsed this long before for a show. We're using more of everything than we've ever used, I think you can see. And yeah, we feel sort of quite strong about it. I think the break did us a lot of good because we were a little jaded. We've been doing it for so many years, albums, tours, album, tour, the cycle. And then giving us that break, it gave us a bit more sort of power, willingness to get back together and work again. You know. I think we realized that working is a really important thing in your life. You know, you can't just sit on this and do nothing. It's the worst thing possible.
I think after the, well, relatively an unsuccessful Hot Space album, there was a little bit of dissatisfaction there, and we toured and we didn't have to enjoy it so much. And we decided to take a long time off, you know, and it was quite a long time before we actually went into the studio, which gave us all a chance to get a break from each other and, you know, for people to try other things as well. And it has resulted in, you know, like Brian doing some solo work, Roger doing another album, Freddie starting an album. And in the end, I think it was good for us as well. And now we're back together. I think we're more committed as a group than we would have been if we'd tried to keep carrying on then. I mean, and also at the time, we didn't really particularly want to do anything together at that point. So I think it was good and healthy for us.
Were you close to breaking up during that time?
Not really. We were just inactive. We just wanted to take a break. And I suppose if we'd felt that we didn't want to come back together again, we'd have just drifted apart, probably. But no, there was never any discussion of actually breaking up.
When we were starting off, it was fashionable to just go on stage in your jeans and be dirty and play and put your head down and never look at the audience, you know, and if the audience has a good time, then fine, you know. And we were a reaction to that. We thought that's not the way, you know, if we have one night in one city, then we want to give ourselves as much as possible. So we will use any device to get closer to those people. So we said we'll do a show. It will be dramatic, it will be glamorous, it will be a complete experience which can blow people away. It's like a big toy for us, you know, it's like boys with toys. Because you have the opportunity to do whatever you want on that stage, you know, and we have the best people, the best technicians, and we say we want this to happen here and this to happen there, and they say, okay, we find a way.
Usually audiences are pretty good, and we find that nationality doesn't really make any difference. Although you might get in some places, I mean, for instance in Germany, audiences like to sort of clap along like that. In, say, South America, audiences like to sing a lot with you, and in England also. Whereas in America, in Central America, in the US, they don't like to sing at all, but they just like to dance, you know. So there are sort of cultural differences like that, but they all just like to enjoy themselves in different ways, really.
Don't you think that at some points of your career, the style of the band has been a bit overblown?
Is that a criticism?
It could be.
I think
Fuck off! Is that an answer?
No. I think it's our style, you know. If we do something, then we do it to excess and we do it as hard as we can do it. And yeah, it's very overblown, it's very over the top, but it's fun and we like it. That's the way we are.
We don't want to become old, rich and useless.
Over the years, synthesizers changed and we changed, that's what I can say. And in the beginning, synthesizers were very mechanical and you could put no emotion into them. But having seen people like Stevie Wonder who can make the synthesizer talk the same as you can the voice or a guitar, then we became converted. We don't totally go over to synthesizers, but the synthesizers are there for certain things. And it's fun to use those things too. And a lot of the new album, The Works, is a synthesis of the two kinds, and almost a battle between the two kinds, a battle between the machines and the humans.
Do you still enjoy yourself a lot?
I try. J'essaie.
Is it a hard life?
To be honest, no, not really. No. No, we're very lucky. We have a very good life. And, I couldn't pretend to say that it was, no.
But England will still get his queen?
Possibly, yes. I think so, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot. John.
Okay, thanks very much, Heath.
People have accused you, and I know it's a baseless accusation of following trends, but what would you say?
I think we follow them rather than follow them, to be honest. Because I think the songwriting comes from the four of us, because we all write individually. And we all write different tunes, that's basically it. And people read so much into it, I mean, basically you just got to listen to the song, I think, and we write different songs. And so between the four of us, we just come up with, sometimes we don't like each other's songs, but we still sing on them.
Speaking of videos, I mean, anyone who's sold over 50 million records can do anything he bloody well wants in their videos, but why the Coronation Street Drag in
Why Not?
Break Free?
Why not?
I think we wanted to give people the idea that we did have a sort of sense of humour, and we didn't really take things that seriously, you know. And to see us in a sort of slightly different situation.
No, it was the first intentionally funny video we've done.
You've worn some pretty wild things in your time, you know, like dresses, red leather, hot pants, etc.
It's the only way to do it, you know.
Well, exactly. What do you think of the present generation?
I think it's great. Boy George, it's just sort of, I don't think about that. It's just what we used to do. I mean, every generation has to do that, from David Bowie to Roxy Music. I mean, I think clothes are an essential part, and it's the kind of image that you have to portray. So, I mean, you know, you just can't do it with jeans and T-shirts. I mean, this is what I normally wear now anyway. But it's a look that you have to come up with when you start off, and I think someone like Boy George is a prime example. I think it's getting into the public eye that way, and I think it's an integral part, to be honest.
Design, all the clothes, all the image, all the sets yourself? In fact,
yes, I mean, together, the four of us do. I mean, when you said clothes, I mean, I think we all design our own clothes, and it's like basically a form of taste. I mean, you know, we wear what we like.
the concept is clean, and not somebody else.
I don't think we go, I don't think we suddenly say, okay, the four of us have got to wear a look today, you know. I mean, those days are over. I think we just do what we feel like, to be honest, and
You look at the videos and the stage set.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not packaged by somebody. You haven't got
not at all.
a godfather up there pulling the strings.
No, never have been.
Malcolm, who would it be? No, we're too pig-headed for that, you know. It's like, we've never allowed anyone to tell us what to do, really. It's sometimes been problematical, you know. But
who came up with the Metropolis idea?
We all did. I think it just fell into place.
Notice that jazz and classical music in the form of opera have played quite a big part in a lot of your songs. Is there anything else coming in now, like South American music perhaps, or?
No, we're not going to pinch any South American stuff like Rod Stewart did, but... Oh, he's going to kill me. So there is, I mean, I sort of have a certain flavor on my sort of solo album. I'm not trying to plug my solo album.
Yeah, the solo album.
No, there's a lot of Latin, sort of American beat to it, and that's about the only thing from South America I can think about. But we don't sort of go to, what can we get from Australia, I wonder?
And I have the man here himself. Freddie, welcome to Countdown.
Hi. Hello, Molly.
What an outrageous film clip.
It's all to do with me.
I mean, how long did that film clip take to do?
It took 3 days, all in all. But, I mean, they were very, very heavy sessions. I mean, I was up till 6 in the morning. I would start about 8. So 8 in the morning and then go all the way around the clock.
Now, David Mallet, who's obviously known for David Bowie's stuff out here, and who came out here and in fact filmed it. Now, was it his idea or your idea?
It was my idea. Now, actually, it's a combination of both. Because a lot of the stuff took place on the actual set, you know,
right.
Different ideas and all that. But it's a combination. We worked on it for weeks beforehand. But then a lot of it just took place while we were on the set.
Well, I think it's a sensational song and an equally sensational film clip, even though it may be a bit over the top. But talking about sensations, it's gone.
I think it's quite mild, actually.
Oh, well, there you go. This week it's hit number 14, first weekend on the British charts, not bad.
Not bad.
And talking about Chartbusters, let's have a look at the Chartbusters for this week. Well, thanks, Gavin. The Tribe, even in Russia from the Countdown Studios. I'm talking about Russia. Have you ever been to Russia?
No.
I think we'd like to go. I think we tried to go there several years ago, but I think they looked at our sort of videos and things, and they said no, because I think they probably thought we were going to corrupt their youth.
Right.
Things like that. So I don't think they're quite ready for us yet. They're going to make up their minds quite quick.
Well, talking about making up your minds, there's a lot of new groups coming up, especially on the English charts, because the English charts seem to sort of happen so fast.
I know, it's cutthroat.
Yes, it certainly is. And there's one group called Go West.
Yeah.
They've got a new single out there at the moment that's doing very well. But you obviously know something about this.
Well, I've seen one of their clips, actually, and heard a couple of their songs. I think they're going to be very, very big.
Right.
I do. I think they're going to be very, very big. They're in that sort of... these sort of duos seem to be coming across quite a lot. Duos like sort of Wham or Tears for Fears, and I think Go West are another... It's like a two-piece band, but they have other members, but it's just the two front people, and seems to be the trend, doesn't it?
Well, a very unusual film clip produced by Godley and Creme, who've made a name for themselves in this. And here they are, Go West with We Close Our Eyes. Now, the next group that's coming up is termed as a heavy metal group, and you're once described as a sort of a glam heavy metal group. Critics, number one, love to put groups into categories. Do you think that's right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, every group that starts off will always get categorized.
Right.
And as far as Queen are concerned, I think we're just about everything. We do heavy metal, we do ballads, we do... So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess we're in every category. But some of our songs definitely apply to the heavy metal category.
Well, I mean, around the world, I mean, not only in England and America, and especially here as well, there are sort of like sections who just love heavy metal.
Very true, very true.
And they actually don't like anything else. But there was a lot of them in your audience, I noticed.
Yeah, because, I mean, they're definitely a cross-section because we play heavy metal stuff too. But, I mean, I'd like people to think that that's not all we do. But I know, because we started off on a sort of heavy metal footing, and in the days of Led Zeppelin and everything. I think Led Zeppelin is still one of the best, the greatest heavy metal band that ever lived.
Well, the next act coming up is Howard Jones. It's going to be hard to knock We Are the World off the number one spot. Number one around the world.
It's a very good song.
Great song. In fact, a lot of people, funny enough, when this was being recorded and I was over in America and went to that session, some people thought it was a rather naff song that Lionel Richie and Michael had written.
Oh, no, not at all. I think it's a beautiful song, and I was gripped by the video, because, I mean, it's nice to have all those stars, you know, and no sort of... There were no ego trips, to be honest, and they're just going from one to the other. It was lovely to see all the stars all together, and I think it's a beautiful song, really.
Well, finally, I must say, thanks for coming on the program. It's been great to have Queen out in this country. You've given us, an utmost delightous performance. I don't know how you can keep it up night after night.
Well, I think I'm glad I came back, and I think the audience has enjoyed it. It was nice to play.
They certainly did.
Nice to play after all these years.
We'll come back soon. Don't leave it so long.
Do my best.
Okay. So it's good night from Freddie.
Good night.
And it's good night from me. And we're not going out with the number one because you've already seen it. We're going out, and I hope it doesn't take you 50 years to get here.
Album. Hopefully there's a lot of humanity in there as well. We think so. We think it's very exciting because we, as I say, we felt we're enjoying what we're doing, and the sounds reflect us as a group more than they have done the last few albums. You know, it's not like sit down with a drum machine and a synthesizer. You know, we played together and evolved things which seemed to excite us, and then built everything around that.
To work together better now than we did before. We're fairly up and down characters. We're all very different. We have different tastes in many ways. And I'm losing my drift here. Yeah, I enjoy working. I don't like long periods of inactivity.
Next project is this film Highlander, which is produced by Russell.
I think we're all still trying to use this beast which Queen is as a vehicle to get our own ideas across. And we all write very different kinds of songs, and it's quite a challenge to get them through this kind of machinery and get them out. If I write a song which has a particular idea behind it and I can hear it in my head, I've then got to take it to the other three, and they will see it totally differently and want to do it in a different way. And some of their input will be very good and very necessary, and some of it will probably actually destroy the meaning of the song. So there's all this interaction going on all the time.
Most of our songs are developed in the studio these days, whereas before we used to have routining time. So we used to try and write our songs But I think these days there's no time for anything. So I mean, we just book studio time and we just go in there. If we make these harmonies, then we got another 2-part harmony coming, and then whoa, I haven't got anything to sing. Might as well just be a fucking Andrew sister. It's magic. I mean, he did it in a totally different way, but I just felt that there was another commercial streak, and I just realized that he was going away to LA for about a week, so I just got hold of it and I just changed it around completely. And when he came back, I said, well, what do you think? And he said, oh, I like it.
Here we are. They've been #1 on the charts. They've stayed together for over a decade. But as if getting to the top wasn't hard enough, staying there may prove to be Queen's ultimate challenge.
You build yourself a monster, really, and so now you can sort of, abide by it. So I think the challenge is actually just staying up there with all the new groups coming up and all that. So I think that's the challenge.
I think, in the group, because we felt like even without all the fancy trimmings, the lights and the show that we normally have, we could just go on and we could still come up with the goods kind of thing. And it was a good feeling, kind of shot in the arm, like you're saying.
Oh, we argue over everything. Everything. Music, albums, politics, anything. The colour of the sky.
Oh, we hate each other. but we carry on. No, we sort of fight like cats and dogs, but I mean, we've always done that. I'm not saying that we sort of completely hate each other, but it's just that, there are fights, and but we're not breaking up. We're still here.
Well, why aren't you breaking up?
Because we like it. We like being Queen, actually, yeah.
Nobody gets their own way. Nobody's totally happy, but there is a certain something which happens, I think. There's a sort of electricity that builds up, because it's a proper group, I think. I'm very proud of it, really.
And with the new single, Princes of the Universe, from the film Highlander, which the group also helped score, Queen shows little sign of giving or breaking up.
I think you always like your newest work best, but I think it's some of our best work, and definitely the songwriting is some of the strongest that we've done.
As you get older, do you yourself find it more difficult to perform on stage?
I shall be doing it in a wheelchair, dear, don't you worry.
The live show is the lifeblood of what we do in many ways, because we're probably one of the few groups in the world at the moment who spend a lot of time recording and touring. And we try and put an equal emphasis on the two. Yeah. So we spend anything up to 3 months making one album, which everybody thinks is a long time. But we then come out and get down there and just play the stuff to our audience. And that's the time when we get the feedback, I suppose. So it's always a kind of exciting time when you just finished an album project and you go out and take it on the road and put the new songs on stage and see what people think of them. And we're very lucky in that people tend to understand what we do. And we don't feel that we have to adapt ourselves to the audience. We feel that people understand what we want to do as musicians. So we're in a fortunate position in that way.
I feel like every album since Night at the Opera has repeats the same schemes.
Really?
Oh, what are you saying?
I don't agree.
No, I don't agree. I would say Day at the Races does and was meant to. News of the World, our last album, I think it's very different, totally different to both of those.
Yeah, News of the World was a complete reversal, really, because we got more and more complex up to A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races, which were kind of twin albums, we felt. And at that point, we felt we had to go back and kind of start again with the very simple things. And News of the World is really very straight rock album, there's almost no extra overdubbing, And on this album, we've sort of changed again, and we're trying out some new directions, we feel. I don't see at all that they're similar.
No, we don't. We never consciously try to repeat.
It's a strobe which lights up a disc which has a lot of stripes on it, and when you're exactly in tune, the strobe works in such a way that, it appears to be stationary. So that's a little flat, because the things are moving this way, and that's a little sharp. So if it's in tune, they stay like that. It's a very useful device, because you can do it with noise around. It's a problem with the guitars, and it's a problem with the people also, because you get hot and you sweat, and then you come off and it's really cold, and you get cold in the head or something, And to perform nearly every night, you need to be very physically on top, I think. You have to be very, very fit. If you go a little bit underneath and you're on the tour, that's it, Everything's a problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like being an athlete or something. You have to be physically right all the time.
You keep in touch with today's rock scene, like the new groups?
As much as we can. We're not in our native country very much these days. We're generally either touring or recording, and we do both of those things outside England now, so we're probably less in touch with Britain than we were. But we listen as much as we can to the new people, yeah.
Is there any group you like?
I thought you were going to ask that.
Go on, name a few. We'll think of it.
Like, oh yeah, I could name a few. Like Devo or Talking Heads.
Yeah. Oh yes,
Interest, yeah?
two good ones. I think.
Kraftwerk?
No, not for me. No.
Public Image?
No, the album is terrible.
Yeah?
Yeah, terrible album. Very disappointing.
Yeah, many punk musicians say hard things about groups, superstar groups like you are.
Yeah. But they're very inexperienced. It's very hard to say these things when you haven't played that many shows, you know.
It's called jealousy.
Especially in a big...
But that happens all the time. I mean, when we started, we were jealous of... who were we jealous of? Led Zeppelin.
Were we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to be there. It's sort of goal that you want to reach, you know, and then... Yeah. It's all healthy.
I think it's really talking about a fashion. It was a fashion at the time, and it was a useful vehicle for people to make a noise, you know. If you say, we're very much against what is going on at the moment, and I mean, in my opinion, most of what actually happened in the punk thing was a reversal, going back to what the kind of thing which we had developed from, you know. I think it's more of a fashion than an actual musical development, I would say.
Sometimes you've been badly treated by the rock press.
Very badly back home.
Abused.
They don't like us, we don't like them.
A lot of people spend their time making up good things to say to the press and don't go out and work. They don't play rock and roll. They just do interviews most of the time and make a few records. But we just tour and record and work. In fact, we're wonderful people.
There's going to be a lot of repair bills on Monday morning. Let's now join Mark Ellen, who's upstairs in the nightclub somewhere, with someone.
Thanks, Mike. We had someone very recently actually just rang up and offered a Bentley, which they wanted to sell for the fund. Absolutely extraordinary. I have here with me another pop person that we've managed to ensnare and not allowed to go home. This is Brian May of Queen. Brian, a fantastic day, isn't it?
Thank you, yeah, great day. The time of my life, I will never forget it.
Great.
Tremendous.
How did you actually get involved with doing it in the first place? Did Bob ring you personally, or what?
Bob approached us at a BPI Awards, actually, and said, would we like to do it? And we said yes, but we kind of have to think about it. And then a bit later, nothing was happening, so he rang me up and pestered me. I said, yeah, I promise, I'll get it together.
So how much do you rehearse for something like that, if it's a special 20-minute set?
We did 3 days. We don't generally rehearse very long, but we did 3 sort of 3-hour sessions or so for it, just editing the songs down because we wanted to compress things and
So
play
a
a
lot
few
of
things.
singers, The Who, rehearse for 30 minutes or whatever it was. That's what they said, yeah. So it's pretty dedicated.
Well, it was a month or so since we've been on the road, so we just thought, we need to get him trimmed.
But it was just quite a different set, wasn't it? I mean, you compressed quite a lot of your numbers in.
Totally,
to get a lot.
Actually, I think we should do it that way always.
It's good.
It's fun.
Did you meet anyone today that you've always wanted to meet?
Yeah, a lot of people, especially people from the new bands, and remade a few old acquaintances. It was a great atmosphere backstage. I couldn't believe it. It's really
you mentioned
a nice thing to be part of.
You mentioned you're an old mate of Tony Iommi of
yeah, well,
of
I've
Ozzy
known him
Osbourne's
for many,
Black
many
Sabbath.
years. Yeah, Tony's great and has a very wry sense of humour. He's always winding me up whenever I see him. I never know whether to believe him or not. And Ozzy, of course, is strangely psychic. He predicted the sex and the date and the weight of both my babies. I mean, not my babies, but my wife's babies.
We are about to cut to Philadelphia and see
Great, this is going to be
Tony
great, see
Iommi,
them together, all right?
Ozzy Osbourne and the old band reformed once again.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the double act from the other side as well. Now, I've got with me here Roger Taylor of Queen, who's come down from Wembley. That was a remarkable set this afternoon. Was Freddie acting, do you think?
Acting? No, that's his normal self.
That's his
actually,
normal,
yes, his
shy, retiring self.
That was an underdone set. We thought we'd underplay it, you know. But it was a great day.
We've seen so many bands come and go at Wembley this afternoon, again at Philadelphia this evening, and there's these band changeovers going on. How difficult is it getting all that equipment changed around?
Very. Well, you've seen lots of bands come and go, but you're not going to get rid of us that easily. Actually, it's very difficult because the sound, you just don't know what it's going to sound like, you know.
and it sounded awful to us on stage, but the audience was just incredible.
They were great.
Wonderful.
Well, in the audience was John Hurt this afternoon. John, step in. You were watching everything at Wembley today?
Yes, I was.
Best bits for you were what?
Well, it doesn't matter what the best bits were. I mean, there were pieces, of course it was. But I mean, there were pieces and pieces of all kinds of different people that were terrific. What mattered was what it was.
And what it's doing, and what it's raising.
And what it's raising, and what it's doing, I hope. Yeah.
Well, the Sunday papers are full of it. We'll maybe take a look at those before we go off the air today. But let's now just go back to Wembley this afternoon, because U2 did an absolutely stormer of a set, as did many other bands there this afternoon. But Paul Gambaccini caught up with Bono of U2 for an interview. Here they are.
That idea of the naked girl to run.
That's why you like jazz. Not the fucking music, you like the naked girl.
No, we're thinking about the music. That's it.
There's a lot of
Costringiamoci a certo quella cosa lì.
Sì, ok, d'accordo. A fare bene. Ok.
Sufficiente, vediamo.
Eventually,
Okay, ready? Okay. Hello everyone, this is DJ...
You're not making us laugh.
Okay. Hello everyone, this is DJ Television, and we're here with Queen.
Ciao, this is John Deacon from Queen.
Ciao, DJ Television. Roger Taylor from Queen here.
Primate, DJ TV, hello.
Okay, this is the first time you've been on tour since '82 when you did that Japanese tour. Why did it take so long to get back on the road?
Because we didn't want to tour for a little while, did we? And also we had to make a new album first, and that took a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, we got very tired, and we'd been working a lot, and making a lot of records, doing a lot of touring.
Yeah.
We decided we wanted to take some time off, so we thought, and then we just got together again, made an album, thought we'd get it back on the road again. It's nice
Sounds
to
so
be back.
simple that way.
This what?
Sounds also simple that way. Just, you know.
It was quite a hard time because we felt we were getting too close to everything, and you know how it is. You know, when you get too close, you have to go away. You know, so we and now we feel much better. It works because we're back on the road, and it feels good to be back.
Yeah. Why did it take so long to come to Italy? I mean, this is the first time you've been here in concert.
Well, we've always been told that there were difficulties in playing here. It's not the easiest place to play in the world, and I think there were some sort of political problems. But we wanted to come to Italy for years, and we thought this was the right time, really.
Yeah.
It's a shame we couldn't have come earlier, because I'm sure it would have been, you know, very good for us as well. And also, you know, it was just one of those things we never dared to take the risk before, did we? Because you hear, you know, quite a few stories about problems at shows in Italy.
Also, it's like an accident of history, because you find that if you You find that if you sell records someplace, then you want to go there, obviously, you know. And in Italy, was never a very big place for us. So we always said, okay, we go to Italy, but first we have to go here because we sell lots of records and they want us, you know. So you tend to sort of go where the tide goes.
Until Radio Gaga came out, and then you went to
Radio Gaga did very well, and we did San Remo, which was something different for us, and now it seems like that's.
You know, you hear about groups doing like one song or one album and splitting up. You guys have had 13 albums out. How do you manage to stay together?
Well, we're sensible. We're not stupid.
By staying apart.
As much as possible.
Now, there's no point in just forming a band and then getting some success and getting so big-headed because you get successful. You know, you're too good to talk to each other and you want to break up. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Who thinks of the ideas for your videos? They're pretty theatrical.
I do.
Very modest, but they come from different ideas each time we do a song. You know, it depends on the song and who's directing it and everything. You know.
Yes. Usually for everything we do, an idea will come from somewhere, and then we talk about it, and it will grow. You know, because for the stage, for the videos, generally there's somebody else involved. You know, like there would be a director in the case of a video. You know, but we always talk about it and we evolve it together.
Have you done the video for Hammer to Fall, the new single?
Yes.
What's that like?
It's totally not what the others were. It's really us live on stage, and that's it. And I think we're very pleased with it.
Yeah.
Very, very pleased. And it's because it was time, having done all the stories and the arty-farty stuff, you know, it was time to show up that we can still play. Because I think the people who only see the videos forgot that.
Yeah.
Especially in America, possibly. So it's you like it.
Yeah, it's quite good because it actually shows us as we are now with the same show on tour now. So it gives people a good idea of what they would see if they came to the show.
Okay, Roger, you've had 2 solo albums out. What about both of you two, John and Brian? Any solo plans?
Not yet for me because I can't sing, so I'd have to use somebody else. But,
for you? Solo plans. Do you have any plans on that?
Well, not at the moment
solo?
because we're going to be very busy with Queen again. You know, we've had the time when we were doing our solo things really, and now we're going to be touring. I think for the next year off and on, and there won't be that much time anymore.
Yeah.
Roger has a solo album out.
And A Strange Frontier.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Thanks. Thank you.
So after this tour, what next? What happens to Queen?
Another tour somewhere else. And then I don't know, hopefully we'll make another album next year. And I think then we might go to America.
Okay.
And Australia, and Japan.
And New Zealand. And Hong Kong. Yeah. I don't know, anywhere there where people would like us to go and play.
Okay. I'd like to thank you. If you don't mind saying goodbye to DJ Television, I'll let you do the honors.
Goodbye, DJ Television. Thank you very much.
Goodbye, DJ Television. It's John Deacon.
Ciao. Thank you for having us.
Grazie.
Okay.
That's it. Good. Okay.
I think...
It's actually the BPI Awards that we went to collect an award, and Geldof was a few tables away and came over and said, how about doing this thing? And he said, we're going to have this and this and this and this. And we said, oh yeah, I'm sure, you know, thinking that it was an almost impossible thing to get together, but we said, yeah, we'd be interested. And then a bit later on he rang up and said, look, Brian, I have to have a commitment, you know. And so we sort of talked about it a bit more, and it seemed like we were all very keen to do it, you know.
Is that because you support the cause and want to do your bit, or because it's such a unique rock event that you can't afford to miss out in a way?
Good question.
Good question.
To answer that, honestly, it's a bit of both, actually, because I think it is a very good cause, and initially I think we would have liked to have taken part in Band Aid single, but I think we were in separate parts of the globe. And so the second bash at it was this thing, and also the fact that some of the biggest and best-known groups around the world are taking part. Why not us? So I think it makes me personally proud to sort of be part of it, actually.
Is it difficult to choose numbers for a 20-minute set? Do you find that you have to stick to your best-known numbers?
Yes, we've just been talking about that. It is pretty hard to make the choice.
Yes, we don't really know quite what to do, you know, whether to play the hits or to try and do something new. But I think in 20 minutes, really, we've got to play things that people know and will recognise, you know, Turkey or wherever they're watching, maybe.
Hopefully. So we're still squabbling over that fact. That's what he's trying to say, yeah.
You're known for the spectacle of your live performances, for the backdrops and the expansive lighting rigs. Is it going to be difficult to cope with the sort of sparsity of Wembley?
Well, it all comes down to if you can play or not, really, which is nice, really, in a way, because I think there's probably an element of people who think that groups like us can't do it without the extravagant backdrop, but we'll see, you know.
After 13 years, do you still get excited about this sort of live performance?
This one especially,
This
yes.
is great, yeah.
Yes. We still like to play and fool around.
And what about the number that you two are going to be performing towards the end, towards the finale? What's the story behind that?
Well, actually, it seems that it looks as if we actually wrote it for this occasion, but we didn't actually. It was done a long time before that. It seems to fit the bill, actually, so I think they opted out and said, well, why don't the two of us... Because, I mean, during a Queen show, it's just the two of us that actually play, and Roger and John actually go and have a drink or something. But so we weren't really going to do that one, but it seems to be very sort of a part of the show. It's very meaningful, and so we're going to do it.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, you tell
Oh, it came about when we'd almost finished recording the album The Works, actually. And we'd been throwing stuff off because there wasn't room for it, and in the end we threw off so much that we said, there's a little hole here, it just needs something. And actually Mac, who was producing us, said, well, why don't you do something really simple, you know, just write a song. And Freddie and I were there late one night, and we just came up with this thing. It was very quick. And we just had this particular thing in mind, you know, the whole business of Africa was in our minds. And that's the way it came out.
Saturday is meant to be all for a good cause, and there aren't meant to be any egos involved. But
No egos at all, no.
But are so many superstars going to find it difficult in each other's sort of personal spaces?
Totally impossible.
Should be
It's
hilarious,
gonna be
actually.
chaos.
I think it's going to be chaotic, yes. It has to be. I mean, we're not all wonderfully well-behaved kids, are we? It was just... But that's going to sort of actually be the nice part of it, actually. There'll be lots of friction, and we're all going to try and outdo each other, I guess. And well, we're just going to go and play.
That's right. I mean, you want to give something special, really, because that's what it's about, you know, not the regular thing. So everybody's going to be out there giving their best, and that's what it's about. Make some money for those people. That's, as Geldof says, that's what it comes down to, you know. We can all have a great time, and I think we will, but it comes down to the fact that it's going to make tons of money. And for a change, the money's going to go to the right place.
Welcome back. Well, as you know, last week saw the death of one of the most flamboyant and popular figures in rock music, Freddie Mercury, lead singer with Queen. He led the group to international success, thrilled fans as well with his exciting stage performances. Joining us in the studio now to pay tribute and maybe to reflect on Freddie's memory for the first time are two of the band members, guitarist Brian May and drummer Roger Taylor. Thanks for coming in. We do appreciate you coming. If we can just ask a couple of questions first. How long did Freddie know that he was suffering from AIDS, full-blown AIDS?
I don't think that's a question we can answer because we don't actually know ourselves. It was always a very private thing with him. We knew I guess we knew intuitively something was going on, but it wasn't talked about. He didn't officially tell us until just a few months before he went. But certainly he knew for 5 years or so or more, so he was living under the shadow for a very, very long time.
He was living under the shadow. And what did it do, as far as you could see it and tell? Because in many ways he's a very private man, that's the irony of it, isn't it? But as far as you could see, what did it do to him, the knowledge that he was...
Well, the one thing he wanted to do was keep on working in the studio. He was absolutely determined to keep the group going and to keep working, and that actually kept him going.
You see,
for a long time.
We watched earlier Those Are the Days of Our Lives, and actually watching it was unbearably poignant just to watch it. So for you fellas to be in that, it must have been a difficult session emotionally.
It's incredibly difficult.
Yes, it was hard. It was really, but we were sort of trying to support him through it, and he was incredibly brave at that time. Obviously, he knew, you know, and we all knew at that time. But you know, the best thing is just to get on with life and to do it, and he did that, and I think he carried on very bravely, actually.
Now, one of the principal reasons you're here, and we're grateful for you coming in, the commentators have all had their say, haven't they? Everybody's become instant experts on the life and past of Freddie Mercury, be they in the papers or be they on television, the commentators. Where did they go wrong and where did they go right in their assessments? You first.
Well, I mean, it's been quite distressing to read some of the reports in the press. One thing is that obviously nobody really knew him, but a lot of people sort of made out that they did. Also the fact that, I mean, he was a very private guy, but they got nearly all their facts wrong, and that they missed out the point of what he was actually like in private, which was actually a very shy, gentle, kind person. He wasn't the kind of persona that he put over on stage because, you know, he was an entertainer. And it makes his friends, I know the people who looked after him right to the end, I mean, they all get very angry when they see the way that he's represented in the English press, especially the tabloid press.
Yes, I mean, it would be wrong of us not to say that he has been depicted in certain quarters as a sort of decadent, wild, bisexual, irresponsible lover. Yes. So what was actually the truth of that?
Yes, that definitely makes us very angry, because he was, certainly the Freddie we knew, wasn't wildly promiscuous. He wasn't consumed by drugs, any of these things that people are saying. He had a very responsible attitude to everyone that he was close to, and he was a very generous and caring person to all of the people that came through his life. And more than that, you can't ask, really. You know, as he moved from a relationship to another one, he was always very, as I say, you know, aware of the effect he was having on people's lives.
Is it a peculiarity that maybe his private nature contributed to some of the lurid epitaphs? In other words, the reality was big showman on stage, but immensely private off stage. Is that correct?
That's right. Nobody really got inside the shell. And so lots of the tabloids, I mean, it's just incredible. I read something in the Mirror last week, which was written by some poor old sick devil. It's just so wrong. So they obviously made things up because they probably couldn't get inside. And for the last 18 months of his life, he was hounded by press outside his house. And we all have been up to a point. It's quite incredible in this country. But he really was a prisoner in his own house for the last 18 months of his life.
Were there times years ago, because I mean you're familiar visitors here, both of you, when you'd liked him to have been more upfront and him to have answered interviews and maybe handled the press more? Would that have helped, do you think?
Not necessarily. I think we didn't always agree, and there were times when we talked about it, but Freddie was very much his own man. He made a decision very early on in his life that he was going to do things his way. And certainly we respected that. We all have our own ways, but within the group, you know, we respected that he was going to handle his own life, and certainly his own attitude to what he was suffering towards the end was his own business, you know. So in some senses we were gagged by that, which was hard for us, you know. You find yourself even not being able to talk about it to friends. Now that's kind of lifted, we can be very open about how we feel.
It's interesting hearing you talking, because Roger, you particularly give the impression that none of you really knew him. He wasn't one of those people you really knew.
I think, I mean, we were very close as a group. I mean, always for 22 years. I think, but it's even we didn't really know a lot of things about Freddie, because he was quite a mystery. But I tell you, we do feel absolutely bound to stick up for him, because he can't stick up for himself anymore. So, you know.
That's right. There's no curb on people being able to say things about people once they've died. So there's very little curb on what they can do when they're alive in this country. And I think one of the things, a lot of people said, what can we do for Freddie? And I think one of the things would be to try and get these laws changed and make sure that people don't have to put up with, you know, perhaps, you know, if we could ensure that there's some kind of lobby to bring in these protection of your private thoughts bill, you know, I forget what the proper word is.
It's interesting that state facts can be protected for periods of up to 25 to 50 years, and yet as soon as somebody's buried, it's an open season.
That's right, and there's no law to stop people disclosing parts of people's private lives when they're alive anyway. I mean, in France there is. You cannot publish details of somebody's private things without their consent.
You come on because you're angry, basically, not because you wanted to get up early and appear on breakfast television. You come on because you're angry, yeah? That's the main fuel, yeah?
Because we're angry. We also want to explain, really, what we feel that we can do now with sort of Freddie's legacy in a way, you know. And also, I think...
That's right, there's a lot to say, really, because Freddie made one crucial decision before he died, which was to announce the fact that he did have AIDS, which was a very brave and I think well-timed act on his part, because it gave us and those close to us a kind of weapon to talk about AIDS. You know, it would have been very easy for him to put on his death certificate pneumonia, you know, which he knew, and it could have perhaps sidestepped the whole thing. The fact that he announced it and said, look, I've got this, and there was no shame to that, I think is very important, because there shouldn't be from this point, or not from any point, any stigma to having this disease. It's nothing to do with, you know, somebody did something wrong, he's being punished. That's got to go. It has to go, you know. It's everybody's problem now.
We're going to talk much more later, fellas. I just love one theory about what created that magnificent showman. Was it the Persian background? Do you have any theories on...
It's so difficult because he was so much his own creation. He really was his own man in that sense. I really don't know. I mean,
it's like sporting or musical genius after. You wish you could distill it.
That's right, yeah.
It was a one-off.
Yes.
Listen, fellas, we'll be chatting much more later. Being re-released, all proceeds will go towards research into AIDS. Roger Taylor and Brian May are with us. It would be pathetic if the death of Freddie Mercury was left as the death of Freddie Mercury, a few lurid epitaphs, be they on television, be they in newspapers, be they on some other form of film. Got to be something more to it than that. What do you think it is?
There's a lot more, I think. There's a lot more to say. I mean, it's quite amazing still watching that video because and from the amount of love that's poured in the last few days from all over the world, I mean, his life definitely changed the world. And I think his death is already changing the world as well because it's, first of all, we're putting out this record which is a memorial to him, re-releasing the Bohemian Rhapsody thing, and all the proceeds will go to the AIDS charity, Terence Higgins Trust.
It's in fact a double A side, and the other side is a track called Days of Our Lives, which you showed earlier.
That's right.
And they are actually the first and the last videos we made.
Yes.
So, and the words sort of tie in quite well as well.
See, as you talk about the song titles, can I just ask you, The Show Must Go On, I mean, you cannot get a more poignant title than that. Was that actually deliberate? Was there a deliberate nature?
There's a lot of things in a lot of the songs. If you look back now, which you'll find sort of bear some sort of have some sort of bearing on what was going on. Yes, the songs generally aren't about one thing. There's usually different levels in a lot of the songs.
You made a claim just then, and people will ring in. I mean, such is the nature of people. They'll say, "What do you mean he changed the world?" Well, you know, that's an extravagant claim to make. How would you defend that? What do you mean?
I mean. I think one of the results of his life can be that people have a different attitude to people being gay. I really hope so. You know, and it's in a way been quite hard for us to talk about it because it was very much his business while it was going on. But here's a guy who was strong, who was incredibly talented, quite magnificent in every way you can think of, and he was gay and was quite public about it. So I don't think anyone can ever quite feel the same about that anymore. I mean, and it's time, God knows, you know. But it shocks me that you still read in the paper, I mean, yesterday there was something in so-and-so admitted he was gay. Now, anybody who writes admitted is guilty of a slur, you know, and there's no reason on earth why anyone should be allowed to get away with that now. So we certainly feel able to sort of throw ourselves behind that now, you know. So it's going to be heteros for gay or whatever it is, you know.
I don't know what it's going to be. As well, you think, as a band, everybody who was connected with him, that at least this is the chance for something positive to come out of it.
So much positive can come out of it.
You can do so much.
That's exactly what Freddie wanted in his, especially in his last sort of period. He felt that by making the announcement, he could turn something positive, you know, out of this sort of awful thing that was happening, and we intend to carry that through, and we're thinking of doing something next year, some kind of event, you know, probably in his name, that will be something positive and will raise a lot of money, we hope.
Because it's almost inconceivable, really, thinking of Queen performing without him as the lead vocalist.
Well, yes, it's pretty inconceivable, actually, yeah.
So,
what will happen to you?
We haven't really decided. We haven't really, I mean, we've been quite knocked over by it, as you can imagine, and we haven't really got over the first stages of grieving, I don't think yet.
No.
And we've decided we would shelve all this business of what do we do. First of all, we deal with the situation as it is. And Freddie has given us such a magnificent kind of platform. I mean, we can certainly make money for the AIDS business, you know, with no problem at all. And we can also raise awareness of it, which is definitely happening already.
I know you were saying to me about the record company, everyone has foregone a profit on this.
Yes,
all the money goes.
Donating all of their side as well, so every penny is going towards the Terence Higgins Trust.
Did you ever get a chance to discuss with him at all that you might do this sort of thing afterwards, or was it something that was perhaps quietly accepted?
It was quietly accepted, I think, really. You know, we really tried to keep him company and just, ease his sort of later period,
As Paul Daniels is listening here, were you a fan of Queen and of Freddie Mercury?
Well, no, because I wasn't a fan of any music. I just did put my head down, I should imagine, like you did, into music. I put my head down into magic, and all this music business sort of went on at a different level. I'm not the fan, I just like music.
But what we can talk about, and it's difficult for you to sit here in this discussion, I know that, but
no,
what we are
I find this really interesting because I only see the publicity side of it. You know, I am the public when it comes to the music industry. And the Freddie Mercury bit, as I was discussing to a gentleman outside from EMI, I think, I said that he will defeat the press, ultimately, that do the bad reporting. That will be gone by next week or so, and then some psychic will get in touch with Freddie Mercury, and all that rubbish will start again.
Nonsense, yeah.
And you get that nonsense, but you cannot defeat the quality of that video.
Nor his fans. I mean, that's the thing.
And nor his fans, who hopefully would stop buying the newspapers that printed the rubbish.
But where I thought, you know, that we can all think about what makes somebody who's different artistically. I mean, we've discussed the homosexuality, we've discussed it, but I'm still fascinated by where Freddie Mercury came from, because as we were saying earlier, he's a one-off artist.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, but I don't think you can say, well, that was created because he was a homosexual. I think that was just Freddie. No, I think that's just Freddie Mercury, who had an awareness of who he was, where he was at, and he created his own image, as these guys said earlier in the morning. You know, he was his own man, and he knew where he wanted to go.
Yes, he had a tremendous force of personality, and which left a tremendous mark on everybody around him, you know, especially us, obviously.
You were talking about the difference as well between him on stage and at home. That is an interesting part of people who are very often in the public eye and in the music business, isn't it? That you can be a great showman when you're out there, so live when you're on stage at one level, and then walk away from it entirely.
It's a healthy balance to keep, I think. You know, it's a good stage, as Paul would agree, it's a good place to be someone else and work off all the things that you need to do. And then you can go away and be private.
I say it, I think he's a bit like Michael Jackson. Showman, perfectionist, and private.
That's right.
Yes, very private. And
I'm a perfectionist as well.
Yes, very dedicated. And
You've got to be that. If you're not that, if you're not that, you're nothing. You're just another one. I know when you're talking about being off the stage, you're normal. I always used to say, well, if I was any different, my mother would slap my legs. and you've got to have that. You've got to have that common sense balance that says, hey, I'm just a guy. I can do tricks. Freddie could sing.
But the sad thing that seemed
like you wouldn't believe
was that he didn't have one single person in his life who made him very, very happy.
Well, that hasn't really been reported, you know. I mean, he didn't in fact die alone. He died with a very stable and loving relationship, which people don't see fit to report, you know. They still harp on about, I mean, the only thing which is kind of regarded as legitimate.
He wasn't miserable.
That's right. I mean,
which has been.
Yeah, so it's all crap. I mean, the proper story has to be told somehow, you know. But you know, the papers were full of various things which seemed scarcely relevant, you know, about the funeral and everything. But nobody said there were actually, in fact, 3 guys who were very caring who were with him to the end. You know, nobody mentions that sort of stuff.
And that'll be a great comfort to fans who know that he did have
that's
that
right,
sort
a
of
totally
care.
stable relationship. Yes. I mean, this is contrary to what everybody knows. You know, and it's not for us to, I mean, it's still a private matter. You know, it's not for us to go on about that.
Absolutely.
But just it's nice for people to know, perhaps, that don't believe any of it, folks. You know.
Yeah, it's really not true. It's also,
none of it is true.
We felt it's very irresponsible of some of the newspapers to call AIDS a fashionable disease, because it's not fashionable. It's
horrific.
It's terrible.
It's not fashionable because it's with
Can we
us.
talk a little more about AIDS? I think, because I know that people at last have been saying this, but let's say it also, you know, this is not something which is just affecting people who are promiscuous, or people that are gay, or people that are this or that, drug users. It's everywhere now, you know, and it's totally irresponsible to suggest that we're kind of safe, because if we're none of these things, you know, our children are going to be incredibly at risk. At the moment, women are incredibly at risk because it's so easily transmittable heterosexually to women. So we've got to be incredibly careful from this moment, you know. And anyone who suggests that it's someplace else and we're still okay, folks, is committing a terrible crime against the rest of us.
Absolutely, and that in a way should be the verbal epitaph, shouldn't it, to Freddie Mercury. Listen, Brian and Roger, we do appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for
talking and
having
putting
us.
at least some of the records
Thank you.
straight. We hope
There's
you
a lot more to come.
I know there's a lot more. Maybe you're
Yeah.
coming again if you can bear another early morning start.
Yeah.
Musicians hate early morning start. Paul, as ever, a welcome guest.
Thank you very much. And can I equally say that I'm not giving any of the royal family magic lessons, which I read in the paper this week. Thank you.
So it's setting the record
But now they've
straight.
seen it, they might demand it. So maybe. And good luck with the video, Paul. Daniel's
you.
magic show, the very
The best
highlights of
Highlights, yes.
many
highlights.
years. Thanks for joining us.